Hello and welcome to the Race to Alaska podcast. We're back again here on this beautiful Pacific Northwest day, and I'm sitting here through the Zoom screen with Jen Vincent.
Hello. How are you, Jesse?
I'm so good, and it's so good to see you.
It is so good to see you. I wish all our listeners could see you.
Oh, well, I'm not much to see. Uh, Obviously, everybody knows you, Jen. World famous for 2 runs at Race to Alaska with Team Fashionably Late. Most recently, aboard the good ship Fighting Trousers, which is no longer in the possession of your team.
True that. That she has some wonderful new stewards.
Absolutely. That's one of the boats that's kind of just been getting handed down and handed down. She's going to do the race more than any human. And the most recent team is Team Mistakes Were Made.
Yeah.
And you talked to them. What do you think of them and their chances?
Oh, I am so excited for them. It sounds like they are approaching this with all of the right obsession and fun. And they've got a really great team put together and sounds like they're ready to have both hardship and fun.
Perfect. That's what we're looking for. All right, well, let's listen up and get to know this team.
Well, I am absolutely thrilled to be sitting down with Mistakes Were Made this afternoon. And why don't we start off, gentlemen, by maybe just doing a round and we can hear your voices and you can say who you are and then we'll get into it.
I'll start. My name's George McCarger. I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Great. This is Keith Council here, formerly from Grand Rapids, Michigan, now from Annapolis, Maryland.
And this is Ted Moskal here. I live in Port Townsend, so fairly close.
Yeah, I'll jump in and do Ben and Paul real quick. Ben Clark is also a team member of ours. He's in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And Paul Brown is another team member of ours and outside of Grand Rapids area.
That's fantastic. So you're spreading right across the country there. Um, let's just dive straight into the origin. Who was the first person who picked up the phone and said that this terrible idea is a great one?
I think that was probably me. I think George and I were sitting on the porch at the sailing club drinking a beer, and I was telling them about this really dumb idea. And it kind of progressed a little bit from there.
Yeah, that's right. Keith asked me if I was interested in doing the race, and I'd heard about the race. I didn't know all the details, but I was always interested in it. And when I looked into it, I said, "Yeah, sure, that's a crazy thing I would do."
Is that sort of in on brand for you, George?
You might say so. I've done some crazy stuff. And I love sailing and sort of adventurous sailing. So, but then I contacted, excuse me, Paul Brown, whom I've sailed with since we were kids,
Hmm.
and on all kinds of boats. And he knows more about boats and is one of the better sailors I've ever met in my life. And I sent him a email and I said, I think I know the answer to this, but are you interested in Race to Alaska? And he emailed me back and he said, George, you're not getting any wiser as you're getting older, but I'm in.
So how many years back was this when you made this call, Keith?
Boy, it must have been, it was before the last edition, like a year-ish before the edition. So that must have been 2023 area.
Yep.
And we formed pretty quick and kind of started getting our feet under us. George came out to the start of the 2024 edition to do recon.
I remember seeing him there.
Yep.
Now, you very wisely went and found some R2AK experience, and you got Ted on board. How did that happen?
Well, I can sort of speak to that. So I had done the Race to Alaska in 2024 with Team Norepinephrine and had a really, really great time and was just kind of looking to get back in the game one more time and hoping to do it in a boat that was a bit more race oriented and a bit competitive. And yeah, I found these guys on Facebook, and they were looking for an extra crew member. I was definitely really reassured by seeing that these folks had done the Washington 360 last year and had taken the boat out and tested it, and had some experience sailing around Puget Sound. And yeah, one thing led to another, and here we are.
And you might just be kind of like the lucky charm because Lionel and Randy with sternwheeling tried a couple of times to get to Alaska, and when you hopped on board, you guys all made it.
Well, yeah, we hope so. May have also been a different boat, played a role, so I won't take too much credit for it. But yeah, hoping we have similar success this year.
Well, that's great. And so how did Washington 360 go for you guys?
We kind of took it as it was a learning experience for us. So that was the plan all along. After I guess the 2025 edition got postponed or moved to every other year. So we decided to do it as ability to test out pedal drives, test out oars, test out crew dynamics. Um, I thought it was absolutely a blast. I think all of us were on cloud nine for quite a while after. We did learn some things that didn't go well, like our pedal drive didn't leave the dock with us, but I guess that's what happens.
So what changes have you made since then?
So changes we've made. We have a new pedal drive oh, design that's a little bit more conventional. We moved to the back of the boat. I think you're probably fairly aware of how congested it is back there.
Yeah.
So I have a really good feeling about that. I think we were working on it in January pretty hard, and we just picked up the frame for it. So I actually feel like it'll work better with a kind of a platform off the back edge of the boat, so you can actually get away from the stern pulpit, which is really nice. Then had to replace the rudder, of course, for WA360. So
Mhm.
that's in pretty good shape, and I'm not sure what other changes we've made to the boat.
Yeah, we replaced some light bulbs. Yeah, and I just want to add Keith and Paul Brown are just instrumental in designing and engineering this pedal drive. But Keith's dad, I just drove up to Traverse City, Michigan yesterday to pick up this frame that we're going to hang off the back of the boat. And this whole thing is so cool because Keith's dad is a metal artist really, and he and Keith built this thing together. And I don't know, I get such a good vibe out of oh just the whole experience.
Well, you guys are kind of scattered across the country. How often are you getting a chance to get together to train or to work on the boat?
Those are things that you do.
Well, some people do. I don't know.
I
It's not
I
for
think
everybody.
so. To give you a feel of the amount of time we've had on the boat, so you guys delivered the boat. I think we sailed for 3 to 4 hours that weekend. It went on the hard for almost a year. We delivered it to Port Townsend from LaConner, mostly motoring. Um, then we started the WA360 and ran the entire WA360 race. We sailed it back to LaConner, put it back on the hard, and looking forward to June.
So, June, now, Ted, I noticed that you are doing a boat building program which graduates in June.
Yes,
How's that going to work
that's
timing wise?
that's correct. Well, I've had a conversation with our administration, and they've given me tentative permission to go and take that last week off. So I will sadly have to miss the graduation, which is a bit of a bummer. But I feel like that's a for a boat building school, that's pretty okay if you're spending your last week actually on a boat up in Alaska. So yeah, and definitely learning a lot of skills in this program that I'm hoping to put to use. This is marine systems at the Wooden Boat School, so we're doing electronics. We've been doing diesel engines for the last few weeks. Not that I guess that part won't be so relevant for this race, but all the other stuff will. So that's the plan.
Yeah, you all together have quite a significant spread of experience from boat building and sail making and lots of club racing and tall ships and yacht delivery across all the oceans and including working as a cameraman for CNN in the Middle East in the 80s. So is there going to be some good coverage during the race?
I was talking to Paul Brown, who's not here, about that yesterday when we went to up to Traverse City, and I'm going to do my best. I have made a number of videos that are they're in different platforms of the Chicago Mackinac race. But at the time, I had access to some pretty good equipment and pretty good editing equipment, and I don't have that anymore. So I'm going to do my best. We're going to try to post something on Instagram maybe every day and see if I can, figure out some tricks on an iPhone. But I don't. I was actually thinking about maybe getting a drone, but with everything that's going on, I just don't know that I'm going to have that much time to do some of the things I used to do. So we'll see.
Ted, I know you've been up that way before. Is anybody else?
I've never been to Alaska. This will be my 49th state.
I've never been up in those waters, and I mean, I'm looking forward to it. We did pretty well in the WA 360,
Hmm.
and we didn't have, some of the what I think are going to be the challenges that happen in the Alaska race. But there were a couple times there where, we were trying to short tack up the shore by the Tacoma Bridge and going nowhere, going backwards and all that stuff. So yeah, that was a good experience, and yeah, I'm just excited.
How are you guys going to break up your shifts? Have you figured that out yet?
The silence is probably a little bit of a
Yeah.
an answer there.
Shifts? Question mark.
Um, Last time for WE 360, we kind of all stayed on most of the day, and then evenings we split up and did proper shifts. I think there's a lot of discussion right now what we should consider on that front.
Yeah, I'm advocating because I've sailed, well, fair share of long distance races that we have set watches and
Mm.
people go off watch when they're supposed to so they can get rest and stuff. But, sometimes it's all hands or situations develop. So we will be having a meeting and talk about our watches.
And are you all flying in or arriving immediately before the race, or do you have a bit of time beforehand? How are you planning all of that?
Several of us will be there about a week ahead of time, I think, maybe even a little more. We have a lot of work to do on the boat with the pedal drive. I say we, that's Keith and Paul, and I'm guessing Ted too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
uh, and so, yeah, we'll be there at least a week ahead of time.
All right, so how comfortable are you guys with being uncomfortable? What's going to be the hardship for each of you? Keith, let's start with you.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I definitely thought sleep would have been a problem with WA 360, but sleeping on top of sails isn't that bad. Um, yeah, I mean, just get staying dry is my key thing. Um, in dry clothes, so that's probably the my biggest fear. I mean, I think that might be a better question for you, since you've sailed on this boat up to Alaska.
Yeah, let's turn the interviewer into the interview.
Oh, wow, I'm on the hot seat. Uh, yeah, I think sleep is really the hardest thing. In the beginning, it's warm, it's sunny, you're in the Gulf Islands, everything feels great, kind of on a holiday, it's everything fun, and then suddenly you realize someone needs to sleep and needs to go down and start sleeping in the middle of the afternoon. And that adjustment is challenging, but I do think it's critical. And yeah, Keith, I agree, staying dry. I mean, I really, my heart just stops thinking about the human-powered vessels and the really small boats who are just wet all the time. I don't know how they do it. Um, they're truly crazy. But yeah, the Trousers was a fun boat to sail, and and I think the hardships is just part of it because that's part of this race. But it's been a number of years now since I was out on the course. I would say sleep and warmth and being dry.
So, Jennifer, you did the race. How many times have you done the race?
I did it twice. I was in 2018 on a different vessel on a CNC 25, giant corn, and then in 22 with fighting trousers.
Right. And that was team, was that Dacron and Denham or?
We were team fashionably late. Dacron and Denham took the boat in 24. That's correct, when you came
Right,
out to the docks.
right. Okay. Mhm.
How about you, Ted? You know this intimately as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I guess sleep is always definitely an issue, but I feel like I'm usually pretty solid at trying to sleep on schedule, and I can make that happen. I think like something that kind of got me down during the last race was just I need to get better about eating real food and not
Mm.
just trail mix because I ate so much of it and just could not touch trail mix for months after. So having definitely I think we've got to have a whole food discussion, but some dehydrated food and some other stuff that is not just nuts and chocolate will change things hopefully this time around for me.
We were fortunate enough to have a chief snactician aboard in Kelsey in both our races, and I can
Oh,
strongly recommend, having someone who is food oriented being in charge of all of, or of at least the meal preps. It made all the difference.
Yeah, it really does matter.
So if somebody were to appear, just happenstance alongside your vessel while you were racing, what deliciousness would you hope that they could pass over to you?
oh boy. Here's a funny story from the WA 360. Where I can't remember exactly where we were. Saratoga Passage, maybe?
I think
And it was
so.
rough. It was rough. I mean, it was blowing what, 20 or so and pretty pretty good.
16 to 20.
Yeah, pretty good sea. And I think we had a reef for sure and
Mm.
maybe a jib, a short jib, but this power boat comes flying up beside us, this little power boat with two adults and this child, and they go, "Do you want some pizza?" And they come up beside us with like a big fishing net and give us these individually wrapped slices of pizza. And it was just like, I don't know, some kind of miracle. So a nice hot piece of pizza would be good.
I,
Yeah.
the kids writing notes on them was very entertaining and enjoyable as well. Multiple of us have young kids, and it's like, oh, that's so nice to see.
Yeah, there were little notes on the slices saying, "You're doing great. Keep on going," and this kind of stuff.
Oh, that's lovely. I can only imagine how much fun they had doing those deliveries too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful serendipity that can happen along the way.
Oh,
Also, a lot of timber in the water. Do you have a log plan?
Try not to hit them.
Yeah.
I mean, from the point of view, I mean, I know you guys have hit logs. I know Darkham and Denham hit logs with the boat. I mean, the goal is just try not to take them in the worst spot. Um, it's always a little bit of luck, I think.
Yeah, in the early days, they promised us that the logs went to sleep at night, and I don't know what happened to that rule, but it just got thrown out.
I didn't realize when I took the tides and currents course there just a few days ago, the instructor had some video and part of them there were just like like a giant area of logs all in a big bunch. I was thinking, individual logs, not log fields or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, these are all things that are new to boys from the Great Lakes.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And they make a heck of a noise when they ping off the hull, I tell you that.
Oh,
So there's no support when you're out on the water in June, obviously. That's the whole point of it. But that's really a narrow view of what it takes to get to the start line. Um, you mentioned that you've had some support with the building of the frame for the pedal drive, but who else is enabling these bad decisions of yours?
Our significant others. Uh, well,
uh,
not really. Who would you say, George? I mean, we are looking for sponsors. If anyone's
we
wants to
are.
take on a name such as Mistakes Were Made.
I think the support just comes from the group. We don't have a lot of outside support. Although I should say my sister lives in British Columbia, Bristol, and last year, just before we did the WA 360, she came down with her husband, and they were a huge help. And the plan is they will meet us when we finish and help me take the boat back down, theoretically with my significant other, but that remains to be seen.
which is a massive help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the return plan is it's a big deal. It's a lot of miles to return.
It's kind of like there's three races when you start thinking about it. You got the race to the start, which is all the prep. You got the actual race, and then you got the hopefully not a race to get the boat home.
Are you getting excited?
Very much so on my side.
Yeah, I am. I mean, this is so much fun for me. I guess I'm the elder statesman of the group. So
Yeah, I'll add that I'm also really excited to get to see these guys in person and sail together. We've never actually met.
Ha.
So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how this team dynamic comes together. It's always really interesting to see what that looks like. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, I am delighted to have the opportunity to talk with you in advance of the race. I will be on the docks in Victoria, hopefully around to help catch the boat when it arrives. I'm really looking forward to cheering you guys on this year, and I think you're going to have a great time. And so, thanks so much for spending time chatting with me this afternoon.
thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks.
Yep.
Thanks very much to Jen, and thanks very much to Team Mistakes Were Made for joining the podcast. Hey, have you thought about what you're doing this summer, specifically between June 14th and June 17th? The Race to Alaska racers know what they're doing, but do you know what you're doing? You should spend time with the rest of us in Victoria. Be a part of the throng. Be a part of the crowd. Come to Victoria. If you have a boat, bring it to the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority Causeway docks, right there in front of the Empress. That is where all the Race to Alaska boats will be. If you don't have a boat, come on down anyway. On June 16th, we will be holding an open boat event where you and yours can come down to those causeway docks, see the boats, take the pictures, get signatures. I don't know if that's a thing, but you probably could. All right, next team up. I spoke with Team Much Ado About Muffin.
Here we are.
Much ado about Muffin? Do you have a favorite Shakespeare quote?
Oh,
You know, I was gonna start. I was thinking it'd be really fun to have a whole like playbook of them, 10 or 12 of them, ready to drop at any moment. But
You can. It's called The Complete Works, I believe. You can do that.
I was just catching up on all of the or not all, but most of them, and I heard that Jake really hates pun names, and I was like, oh, we are a pun name if there ever is one. So
When it comes to boat pun names, there are better and worse. Like, because does anyone, like, you've all walked around marinas plenty. Any of them stick out in your head that are really terrible?
I saw one the other day that said The Office. Like I think that was in Shill Shoal. It was like a big power boat, and it just said like at the office, right? And yeah, I think the ones about money,
College
or
fund?
college fund, 401k. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That's one way to go. And then there is misusing the word see, which we have at least one team in the race this year, nothing to see here, that did do that, and they were scolded. And you've got using the word not, ready or not all there. Yeah, there's some bad ones out there.
there's some good ones too.
What's that?
There's some good ones too.
So name one. What's a good one?
Well, I mean, Darwin's interns like rank super high for me already.
That's true. That's
But
true.
then you see who's on the boat and you're just like, oh, this is so perfect. It couldn't be better.
Yeah, they're gonna be good. Um, Quite a blast. Are you gonna feel pretty broken up if your like 6 extra feet of Santa Cruz doesn't overcome their youthful vigor?
I feel like if we can see them still, we have more than one, having been young once, I know what that drive is like. And
Uh-huh.
I'm hoping that the other part of having been young once is that, we're doing smart things too.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, I mean, those young people, not only are they young people with a lot of vim and vigor, they're also R2AK veterans already, right? So you're going up against quite a bit. So, team, hello and welcome. Let's say hello to everybody. Mark, you're the captain, at least on paper. Is that real?
Yeah, if that is a title, yes. And we have an awesome team, although we don't have everyone here today.
All right. Well, your job is to introduce everyone real quick.
Okay. Well, what do I
I don't know. Make it up.
intro? Okay, here, I'll answer one of your questions. How did you all meet? Ari and I went to business school and we would talk sailing. And then we met up at a business school kind of regathering, and we're like, oh yeah, R2AK is so cool. Yeah, I really want to do, yeah, I really want to do that. Okay. Those are a lot of conversations because it's so cool. But then at the start for 2024, the pre-day, I ran into Ari and it was like, oh, you're really serious. Oh, you're really serious. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing more. He had a more 24 at the time. So he emailed me afterwards and said, I think we should do this together. That was like me moving from my head to like the first step.
So started with you and Ari.
And then Luis, who isn't here, he's a longtime friend of mine, and we've done a lot of kayaking together and all sorts of trips I've known Luis for like 20 years. And so I invited Luis and we did WA 360 last year, had an amazing time. And yeah, and some of that crew couldn't join for this one, and so we started looking broadly, and Anne was posted something on the R2AK Racer forum saying she was looking for a ride. So we chatted.
Yeah, quick interlude, all listeners. Ann McCormick is back once again, glomming onto a team using that Facebook. Back from Loose Screw in 2024. Hello, Ann.
Hello, Jesse.
So when Anne said she got to the finish and said, answered the question, would she do it again? Right fresh off the boat, having spent 2 days freezing cold. I was like, well, I don't know what she's got, but she wanted to do this again within minutes of coming to shore. So
I recall you were in pretty good spirits that day, Ann.
We were all very happy to touch land. And Emily had that champagne too. So
and then Ari introduced Julia to the crew, to the mix. Julia's maybe doesn't know that she's a racer. She identifies as a cruiser, which is totally fine, but
the most type A competitive cruiser that you've ever met, right?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
Put it in your own words. Are you a racer or a cruiser today?
I feel like I'm identifying as a racer today.
Okay.
What I loved about Julia was she was like talking with all the boats when we've done some races in Shoal, outer Shoal. She's chatting with everyone. She's woohooing. She's cheerful. It's just like, oh, we like that. I like this energy. We need more of that on the boat. So cruiser, racer, whatever. I'll take the smiles and the joy any day.
So the concept came together in 2024, and then you were probably a casualty of the announcement of no 2025 Race to Alaska.
I was thrilled. I was like, this is like the perfect low risk entry into this thing, and a chance to like figure it out without quite having to figure out as much all at once. You only get to do a new thing once. I really am treasuring this first time because I hope to do it many times and in different ways and with my kids or whatever, but I think it's really special that way. So I was really super grateful.
That's good to hear. how many of this group here were on last year's? It was Hello, I Love You was the team last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How many here? It was you
Ari,
and Luis. Okay.
he's not in the room right now. I don't know where
Okay,
Luis
cool.
is. He's a worker.
So we got fresh freshies over here. It's actually like quite a cool smattering. We've got fresh freshie racers. We've got Washington 360 racers. We have Anne, who, I mean, I imagine Anne's bringing. You got pressure on your shoulders, Anne. Talk to me about what it feels like about being the veteran on the team.
Well, it's kind of mixed because they look at me and say, okay, you know the course. It's like, kind of. So it's exciting. What I said when I got off the boat in Ketchikan was that I'll do it on a bigger boat, and this is definitely a bigger boat. Um, I'm looking forward to not having some sort of upper respiratory illness this time. I caught whatever was going around Victoria the last time, and for about a few days I was sort of useless. But so I'm looking forward to being spot on and knowing where things are, and I'm able to tell them a little bit about where the logs all started showing up. And sometimes when we had high winds and lots of waves, and sometimes when it was dead and the pedal drive didn't work and we were paddling in the dark and trying not to hit rocks. So I bring some of that, and I'm good at staying calm.
I think a lesson you could bring from Team Loose Screw, well, a few just from the proving ground.
Yes.
Don't let your pedal drive fall off the back of the boat.
Well, back boat. Yep.
And this one, I mean, Loose Screw never figured this one out, but don't somehow set off your PLB or EPIRB in the middle of the proving ground on accident. That was a bummer.
We had the Coast Guard a little bit excited about us. And it was my EPIRB that went off. So
You got a new EPIRB, or
I'll check it. Well, I'm going to check it really well.
You're going to
before we
like
head
look
out.
at it really hard. Is that pretty much what you're going to do?
Yes, stare it down.
Julia, let's talk to you. Tell us what there is to know about Julia.
Yeah, I was born and raised here in Washington and started sailing at the age of 7. We had it was a catch, and we sailed out of Everett just about every weekend, and summers in the San Juan Islands. There were 4 of us on a 26-foot sailboat, and my parents thought it was the greatest thing in all the land. And I guess I caught the bug. In high school, we lived aboard an 85-foot powerboat on Lake Union and have just sailed my whole life. I've lived aboard for off and on for the last 17 years, and I think anything that has to do with water is my happy place. I absolutely love it. And I'm so excited to see the Inside Passage and to see bears and whales and eagles and all of the things that you just really can't see, right? Unless you're on a boat with 5 other people sailing 24 hours a day.
What a dreamy answer. That's such a positive, dreamy answer. So I'd like to follow up and ask you, like, what's going to be the shittiest part?
So one of my good friends did Race to Alaska in 2018 on Wildcard, and he said he was bitterly cold. And after listening to some of the other interviews, cold is what I'm really not looking forward to. So Anne had mentioned bringing some waterproof pants and wearing them over her fallies. And I think Ari has some synthetic puffy pants that he's bringing, right? And so it's really just trying to stay warm and avoid deadheads at night, no logs at night.
Yeah, you really don't have control over that other one.
No,
Not at all.
no.
Jody, let's talk. I will pose you a question.
All right.
I don't know what that question is going to be. I don't generally prepare for these things all that much. Talk to me about the nastiest experience you've ever had on the water.
I would say, so I started sailing, I'm from Duluth, Minnesota, and I started sailing on a J35 there, and we were doing a race along the north shore of Lake Superior. And it was one of those days where you're just kind of racing. There's this rock called 5 Mile Rock, and we were racing that out of Grand Marais. You know, it was just dead calm, dead calm. And then the winds really picked up, and we were just screaming down the lake. And we threw a spinnaker up, thinking, you know, we're these great sailors, and we ended up broaching like 5 times. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to be swept away. I was on the low side of the boat, and yeah, we rounded up quite a few times, so that was exciting. I don't know if it was awful, but it was, a little scary, I guess.
Harrowing, maybe?
Harrowing, yeah.
Harrowing.
Yeah, they couldn't release the guy. So I don't know.
So
I
what
don't
brought
know.
you from the lakes? What brought you from the lakes out to the big waters, the real big waters?
Oh, I used to work for the Forest Service, so I traveled around a lot. I haven't lived in Minnesota for a long time. So yeah, I ended my career. So I was wildland firefighter. So yeah, I traveled all over the US, moving from job to job. And yeah, ended on the Olympic National Force mainly because I wanted to get back into sailing.
Oh yeah, that's the driving force.
Yep.
And you're also in Seattle?
No, I'm in
No.
Port Hadlock. Yeah, I ended up doing the 70-48 last year.
Oh, okay, great. What was that like for you?
It was me and a friend of mine on a 2-person rowing wheelie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Francis Strikes Back. The boat has done the 70-48 a lot.
Oh wow, so you row. Would you ever consider rowing Race to Alaska?
No. But
Because that's even dumber.
I tell you, last year, it was perfect conditions. The weather was beautiful. I was not windy. Yeah, it was really magical. Yeah.
I'm going to cut out all that part about 70-48 being good weather.
Oh, yeah.
No one needs to know that.
Right. Yeah, no one needs to know.
And Ari, you're also here in Port Townsend.
I am, yeah. So Jody and I have sailed together a fair bit. So we shout out to Dave on Salsa. We both crew a lot with Port Townsend Sailing Association. And so, yeah, just, having sailed together, just, hardest working foredeck person in show business. So I was, kind of thrilled to invite Jody and kind of make the introductions with Mark and just really glad it all kind of worked out. It was actually, it was like a reality show at one point, right, Mark? Like there was like, multiple people on the boat kind of vying for spots. And so it's gaining in popularity, maybe especially with the early kind of close of registration. But yeah, I've been wanting to do Race to Alaska since kind of the inception, right? Being local, it was kind of one of those things. Like, some people are that way about Burning Man, right? It's just every year, your friends go and you're like, oh, maybe I'll go this year, and no, it's never quite the right year. And yeah, just it kind of, I think, the stars aligned. And running into Mark and then doing the WA 360. So that was a really great experience. And yeah, I'm thrilled about the crew. I'm thrilled about the boat. I think like when you look at the boats that, there's sure a lot of these kind of Santa Cruz boats of a similar vintage. And I think there's reasons, right? One is they're, kind of attainable, but they're a really great sweet spot of kind of durable and fast. Right. So I think every year there's boats that are going to win if they don't fall apart. And, I think, knock on wood, right? Like a lot of the Santa Cruz boats, can kind of take a beating and still go pretty quick. So yeah, I'm psyched.
Well, let's do it. Let's talk about the boat. Talk to me like I don't know anything about boats, which may or may not be true. The fans, the listeners, everybody knows the Santa Cruz 27. It is kind of becoming ubiquitous with this thing. They're everywhere. They're like peeking out of like closets at this point, these things. But you have Santa Cruz 33. Aside from the number being larger, how do the boats differ?
Oh, I actually don't know, to be honest.
Terrible question I asked then.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I mean, I grew up in Monterey, Monterey Bay, California. Shout out to Monterey Peninsula Yacht Club, coolest little down home and most generous place. But Santa Cruz is right across the bay. And so we had all these ultralights, all of them were happening when I was in high school. And it was, we had Santa Cruz 50s, Santa Cruz 70s around. We had the Santa Cruz 27s, the Moores, the Expresses, the Olsons. It had it all. And my sailing hero had this yellow Santa Cruz 27. He never put a motor on it. He sailed it down the coast and up into, the Sea of Cortez and just all of this with never with a motor. And it was just like, well, this is the coolest boat. He talked about one time sailing from Monterey down, if you down the coast of Big Sur, and there's this lighthouse there called Point Sur Lighthouse. And he talked about having rooster tails shooting up about midships, and he walks up and he jibes the boat by himself. He's solo and he jibes the boat with these rooster tails going up. Because this boat's the most amazing boat. It's so stable. And to me, like just everything about that blew my mind that you could do that, in such a beautiful place. And so I've always had a thing for the Santa Cruz 27s in particular. And this guy Robin Jeffers is just he's amazing, still is in his sailing, and still a hero for me. But I was looking for a 27 when I came across this boat, and it just is everything that I remembered about both the 27s and the 50s. But there's standing room in this 33-foot boat. It's a little shorter than stock because the bottom's been fixed and all the stringers have been replaced and stuff like that. I can't quite stand up straight. I have to turn my head a little, which is a little annoying, but that alone feels like such a bonus for a race like this where you could be wet and cold a lot.
So you've done some things to the boat, sounds like, and so let's talk. One topic we got to talk about is the props, is the pedal drives. Now you got your hands on the props from Tips Up.
Yeah, so in my research, one of the things that Odin talks about, he always has only gone with a single pedal prop. And I was like, why that? And he said, well, one of the things that he talked about was they could pedal longer with their system because he often used this guy, I can't remember his name, but this guy up on Lopez who loaned out a pedal drive that has this flywheel on it. And he thinks that really helps smooth out this thing that's really hard on your knees when you're constantly pedaling uphill and you stall out. And it's really hard just on the knees to kind of constantly be having to regenerate. And I noticed on the forums, John Ped of Tips Up talking about how smooth his system was when there was some discussion about different approaches. So I reached out to him and said, well, how do you think that is? And he said, well, I think it has a lot to do with the prop itself. And so, months later, when I finally got my system put together, I just didn't, the initial prop I had on there didn't have enough bite. I was spinning really fast and just not going anywhere for WA 360 prep. And I reached out to him and he's like, well, I could, let me run some numbers. Maybe this will work for you like it did for my Hobie 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a side mounted prop system. So all night, Friday night, before WA 360, I put it on and we pedaled the things backwards and I'm like, oh yeah, this is worth it. So I spent all night swapping my pedal stations so that we could take off. Of course, here comes the start. Everyone's taking off out of Point Hudson out to go out to the start. And I realized I hadn't taken the pedals and switched them. So the toe clips were facing the wrong way and upside down. And so we just like, okay, this is going to be a problem because these pedals are going to back off if I don't watch it. But I'm like, I'm going to remember this. And of course, we didn't remember it until 2 o'clock in the morning, going underneath the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, and the wind dies, and I hear this plop. And then somebody says, what was that? And somebody says, where did my pedal go? That was a big, oh, I know what that is.
For listeners who may not know anything about bicycles, the pedals that go onto your crank arms there are not threaded so that they should be pedaled the wrong way. And they will just fall off if you pedal them the wrong way too long. And it has happened to quite a few teams. Oh, yeah, Anne's raising her hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have y'all been training together?
We haven't all been together on the boat at the same time yet, but
You know each other's names at this point.
we've had one team meeting in person, which was fantastic. And we've got our Google spreadsheet. It's got all sorts or document. It's got all sorts of notes and things to do. There's some of that. We'll probably try and do Swiftsure as a thing to just do some shakedown, shake out.
Will you commit today to do the Swiftsure with no engine aboard? Commit right now.
Ooh. Can
We were talking about this, right? Yeah.
I mean, actually, I would probably say yes if I was allowed to do it. I think you have to have,
Yeah, they have rules and stuff.
yeah, like a whole thing.
Because it would actually help with the logistics, right? If you could do it without.
Yeah, because part of it is when do I pull the motor and how much time do I need between the end of Swiftsure and just making sure that we solve all the problems.
Well, two more questions. First, there's one team member who's not here, so they lose the right to advocate for themselves. So please tell me about this person and include all the nasty, all the dirty, all the stuff that they don't want us to know.
Well, I mean, Luis is, I described him for WA 360 as the most thoughtful risk taker I know.
That
So
sounds kind. Mark, you're being really kind. Is there anyone on the team here today who can be a little mean? Is there anyone? Ari, you look like you might have it in you. No, you shake your head. You're all so nice.
No, it was good. My memory of Luis from WA 360, there was this moment where we were short tacking up the Swinomish channel, or however that's pronounced. And we must have tacked 100 times, and we were kind of tacking by braille, right? So we were watching the depth sounder go down. There's a couple of times when we were late, and I think we kind of carved a groove with the keel a couple of times. But him and I were trimming at that moment, and just I remember, kind of passing the winch handle back and forth like a baton, and just the kind of the feeling when we finally got out of that channel. And I'm trying to remember there, Mark, do you remember the boat that was it was like that kind of dinghy that was with the two brothers aboard? And so we were kind of trading tacks with them.
oh God, it was so cool. Yeah, they were like a little 18-foot open dinghy, homemade dinghy. You'll have to remember that thing flew. It was on our ass the whole time. If they could sail 24 hours, they would win this thing. They were just amazing. And we were trading with them because, we have a little bit of, we had some water line, but we were trading tacks going up Swinomish. It was awesome. Swinomish, it was amazing. It was so amazing.
All right. That's a great story. I didn't hear any trash talking in there, but we can pick that up
I'll
later.
give you I have one sore point. My sore point with Luis from WA 360 was I learned after the fact that he and one of the other crew members, when they were off, would pull out a little table that Luis had brought. He brought a little like fold down table, and he had a whole box of wine that he hadn't mentioned. And he would share a glass of wine with one of the other crew members quietly below decks. And I was like, what? So, and if that's like a sore point with Luis. Luis is he's a badass paddler and canoeer, and he represents the US. He was doing men's worlds in Eastern Europe this last summer after WA 360. And so he showed up at our meeting, and he'd done a race up in the morning, just last Saturday. So he's constantly racing, and he's a badass in many other ways with a lot of sailing experience too. So
I applaud your effort to trash talk, and you failed miserably. It's not in you. It doesn't seem. Okay, here's my last question for you. Everybody as a team, I imagine you've all been following the what's going on this year, maybe listening to the podcast, seeing the teams pop up on the websites. Are there any other teams that you're aware of so far this year that if you weren't on this team, you'd want to join that team?
At the moment, I can't think of anybody. I'm happy to be on this team.
Oh, I
Sorry to
think
be
you're
boring.
kind of you're throwing shade at the rest of the teams. I like that. Julia?
No, I'm just really grateful to be part of this team. I think we're gonna totally kick some butt.
Race Boss is like really crashing and burning on trying to get some spicy podcast content here. Ari, if there's anyone who can answer this question, it's you.
Well, so first of all, I want to go back to Julia because wasn't there was a moment when there was a moment of indecision, right? Where you were talking to another team.
Yeah, there are these other two women. They are did we say they were the surf scoters? Is
Oh,
that their
Surf
name?
Scoters out of Olympia. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were looking at a boat and trying to get into Race to Alaska. And they actually got a hold of Ari. And Ari got a hold of me because I had been on Wildcard or Sailor Jerry's Kids for Washington 360, and it was the Santa Cruz 27. And so they kind of wanted to rack my brain what I thought about Santa Cruz 27s, and they had actually they found one. They have a boat now, which is fantastic. But there was this moment where I was like, okay, I didn't really dream that, if you asked me a few months ago if I would be doing this, right? That wasn't really like preeminent and in my mind. And there was this moment where I could have gone on that boat or stayed on this boat. And yeah, I think I made a great choice. I think they're going to do really, really well. And so they might be my nemesis. Like I'll be watching out for them on our way up north.
That would have been a better question. Who's your enemy, actually? But we got to ask Jody if there's any team you would join if it weren't this one.
Isn't there an all women's team on the Santa Cruz 27? Is that the one? The same?
Sailor
Yeah,
Sisters.
yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I actually have a Santa Cruz 27, and so maybe someday I'll do it with my own team on the Santa. Maybe it'll be all of us on a Santa Cruz 27 one year instead of a
Hmm.
Santa Cruz 33. Although 6 people on a Santa Cruz 27.
Well, we've come to the point where I will ask you if you have any questions for me. I am just a lowly race boss and I actually don't know much, but I'm here for your questions.
What's the biggest boats entered so far this year?
Bigger than yours.
Okay.
How about this? I don't want you to, pick favorites, but if you were going to pick a team that you wanted to race on, which team would it be?
That
It's a
I
good
wanted to
one,
race
Jody.
on?
Yeah,
Does it have to be ones from this year? Or can it be past years?
it could be past years.
Yeah, it's tough for me to play favorites. I mean, I could go a couple different directions here. I could do like, what is my type of adventure? And in that case, it might look a little something like Ziska, Team Sail Like a Luddite, 2019.
That's the old gaffer, right?
The old gaffer. I am myself a gaff sailor. I think there's something about the wood. I'm one of those guys. It's slow. I like sailing fast is fun, but I kind of really enjoy sailing slowly. uh, but there's also, I mean, there's so many fun teams. I think that's really like the people aboard. I've been lucky enough doing this now for several years that I've made some really nice connections with some teams, and I'd hate to call out one over another, but you know who you are out there. And then at this point, I will edit. I'm not going to say this in the podcast, but it would be with if you haven't met the people from they are my favorite. They're the best. I love them to pieces.
You were so harsh on them. I stood out to me as like, why does he dislike them? All he wants to say is
Really?
like,
What did I
oh,
do?
they have matching shirts. And it's like, what the fuck? Really? Like, there's so many teams that have that.
Well,
They're the coolest people. I reached out to because I was trying to figure out what the hell his pedal drive system was
mhm.
for when they had the and he was so generous. He's totally focused on team dynamics and the joy that they had together.
Mhm.
I totally admire as like they're like a model for me.
Okay, well, is there any last questions here for me? You're ready to go.
Yeah, ready as we'll ever be. Yeah.
Yeah. When Verity sent her like congratulations, I was like, thanks, I think. Now it's for real. It's like, there's stages of commitment. It's kind of like when you get on the green tongue of a of a rapid, there's like levels of you can't bail out. And that was one of them. And there'll be others as we get closer.
Well, everybody, best of luck on everything.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
See you later.
Bye.
See you, team.
That was Much Ado About Muffin, and coming up for our last interview of this episode, Adam Cove returns to interview Team the Bristol Bear.
So, Alex, you're coming from a little ways away. A lot of racers are coming kind of right from Washington area, Port Townsend. I came across the country when I did it a couple of years ago, but you're coming from all the way across the pond. Do you want to talk about
Yeah.
where home base is?
Well, I live in Bristol in the UK. Yeah, which is a sort of quite a nice city, but it's next to a very tidal kind of area of the UK with the Bristol Channel, which is also called the Severn Estuary, with a really big tidal range. So that's where I do most of my rowing these days.
Excellent. And there's quite a bit of tidal range on the race course, so it seems like you're no stranger to current.
Yeah, I'm also quite scared of current. So I kind of wrote that in my application. I've got a healthy fear of tides, let's say. Yeah.
Well, and you've been in some interesting waters. I was reading you've done some rowing around the Isle of Wight. That
Yeah.
current with the double high tide is pretty tricky around there. You want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that adventure you planned?
Oh my God. Yeah. So that was I guess it was kind of like a little test for myself to see how I would get on without any, because normally when you do these kind of things, you have a bit of backup. And there's someone you can call and like they'll come and help you out, or they'll come on a boat and tow you back in or whatever. But in this case, I just wanted to do it completely unassisted. So I did a lot of work on the tides because of the double tide, and I worked out a way of being with the tide pretty much the whole way round the kind of circumnavigation of the Isle of Wight. So I kind of set off at, I think it was 5 a.m. one day, and just thought I'd have a go and see if I could get all the way round. I mean, I'd say I'm really blasé about it. I kind of, I spent absolutely ages working out the tides and making sure I had the right stuff, and having my personal locator beacon and just looking at the weather very carefully. But I still got a bit caught out at the end. So yeah, after 8 hours, I'd got round most of it. I'd got round a horrible tidal race, which was really scary. But I managed to get around that by kind of edging, almost touching the shore. So before the race could really get going offshore, so I kind of crept around, kind of like an inshore passage. But I still didn't quite make it all the way round the Isle of Wight. At the very last bit, the wind got up in the Solent, which is kind of the channel between the Isle of Wight and the mainland of England. And I had to call it a day after I think it was about 9 hours. So I was really close, but didn't quite do it. But I also felt I felt pleased that I'd known when to stop, because when you're unassisted, you've got to have a bit of a margin for error and keep on the safe side. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And there's some areas that really don't have a soft landing there. The Needles, for example, sticking
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some funny things going on when you're in the water there. Yeah.
And so, this is not completely untested waters for you. Racing up to Alaska with kind of extreme currents. In fact, you've done even more than that. You've gone all the way across the Atlantic under human power
Yeah.
before, which is what we say over 4 times the length of Race to Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I knew you were going to kind of mention this, and the 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 row across the Atlantic is a very different thing to the race to Alaska, because when you leave the Canary Islands, which is where most people start when they're heading across, and most go from in that direction because you get the trade winds. Once you leave, there's no turning back. So you kind of you're in it, and whether you think it was a good idea after all, or whether you get a bit tired, or whether things go wrong, you don't really have any way back. So you all, I mean, 99% of people, I think that certainly do it with as part of the world's toughest race, I think they call it, succeed because there's no other option to succeed, and that's what's so different with the race to Alaska. That I get the impression that like there's every time you stop, there's like a way out. There's a way of kind of not carrying on. So yeah, it will be a very different challenge, I think.
For sure. And you'll find any given year, if you look at the numbers, there's quite a few people who don't finish the race. And so we'll all be cheering you on to make sure you're not in those numbers and you do
Yeah.
get to the finish line.
Yeah.
When
I'm hoping, but I'm also realistic. I'm realistic that I'll give it my best shot, but you know, I'll draw the line if it all gets a bit too kind of hairy.
Well, so what are your expectations, Alex? What are you hoping to achieve during the race? Have you set those? Are you willing to publicly put
Yeah.
those out there?
Well, I one of my greatest fears is being alone, and I'm doing it as a solo endeavor. And there's kind of I kind of wanted to see how I would manage to see. So I appreciate it's a huge physical test of endurance, but I'm most worried, and the thing that I kind of want to get out of the race to Alaska is how I manage that being alone um and living in your own head to a certain extent. So I'm kind of that's what I want to kind of get out of the race, but I also want to make it a very sociable in a sort of weird kind of opposite way. Want to make it a really kind of sociable and talk to everyone and to meet as many people as I can possibly meet on the way. Yeah.
And I think you'll be shocked and amazed at how quickly you bond with the rest of the racers, and even people along the race course willing to help you out. I mean, with our group from 2 years ago, we still have a WhatsApp group going to this point where
Oh,
we're all still
brilliant.
communicating. So
Yeah.
count on a ton of camaraderie. It's really a great
Yeah.
group in the
Yeah.
race.
Well, I'm kind of counting on that. Yeah, I'm going to be really, oh, hi, pleased to meet you. How are you planning on doing the race? And, are you expecting any company on the way? So I kind of, yeah, I'll be putting the feelers out, put it that way, to see who wants some company and who doesn't. Yeah.
Well, and shy of that, there's grizzly bears, whales, dolphins along the race course. So, you
Yeah.
won't be alone out there.
No. Yeah. I'm slightly worried about the bears, but I think, if you leave them alone, they'll probably leave you alone, kind of. That's what I'm hoping.
It tends to be the experience.
Right.
So, Alex, making that decision to go solo is a challenging one.
Yeah.
And having been there myself, I get it along with a bunch of other racers. It is quite a challenge. Do you want to talk about kind of that process and deciding to do that, along with what did you choose to race up to Alaska? What are you going with for a boat?
Boat wise, it's a light boat X-Row. So because I'm coming from the UK, I can't just kind of tow my boat up from where I live to get to the start of the race, or sail it up or row it up or whatever. So I find with these kind of endeavors that getting to the start line is one of the hardest things. So I've kind of deliberately made everything as straightforward as possible, which is why one of the reasons as well to go for kind of a solo rowing boat, that it's a very simple device. So it's a French company called Lightboat who make a sort of an adventure rowing boat, and it's kind of just a GRP, nothing particularly fancy, but I also know the brand quite well, so I kind of trust that it'll be well made.
And so with that boat, do you want to describe it a little bit for the audience, and how's that going to kind of impact your way heading north? Are you going to be stopping every so often to sleep? Are you hoping to do some of that on the boat while you're kind of anchored? What do you think you'll be able to pull off along the length of the course?
It's a boat that you can just about move up. So a normal coastal rowing boat, if you let go of the oars, then you capsize. Whereas this is slightly wider, so you could let go of the oars and you're not going to fall in. But you certainly it's narrow enough that you wouldn't feel at all comfortable anchored up and sleeping on it. So my plan is to get my rowing hours in every day, and have an idea every morning where I'd like to get to by the evening, and probably using BC marine trails to kind of find a reasonable place to camp. And then I've got quite a lot of lightweight camping equipment, which I will have all packed in the boat, and so I'll set a little camp up every evening. That's the plan.
Well, and you just brought up a really important part of this race. I mean, you're going to be rowing a fair amount, no shy of 750 miles if you make it up there.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of calories you're burning every day.
Yeah.
How are you planning on replacing those? What are you thinking on the food front?
The rule of thumb for the Atlantic row is 6,000 calories a day. So that's what they say you should try and eat. But if you've ever tried to eat 6,000 calories, it's like a feat of endurance in itself, just eating those calories. So realistically, you're not going to get 6,000 calories in. So I think I probably wouldn't be burning quite that many, but maybe around sort of 4.5, 5,000. So I to keep it lightweight, because I think when you're not relying on wind power at all, you really need everything to be as lightweight as possible. I'm going for dehydrated foods, and then when I get the option to get something fresh from a shop on the way, then I certainly will. But I'm gonna that's going to be the bulk of my kind of food intake, is going to be the 1,000-calorie dehydrated meals, and then snack packs through the day, which is exactly what they do on the Atlantic row. So you kind of have your number of calories worked out each day, so that you know when you've kind of hit your target. Yeah.
Excellent. And so, Alex, this race has quite a following. In fact, all the way up, you're going to have people cheering you on from shore, kind of hidden in their houses or watching you on the tracker.
Brilliant. Yeah.
If they happen to stumble across you on the race course, especially being a single-hander, and they could kind of bring you any sort of treat, what would kind of absolutely make your day and motivate you, food-wise?
Oh, I don't know. I whiskey.
That's a fine answer.
Whiskey, maybe. And I've heard that sort of cannabis is legal in in Canada as well. But yeah, any just someone stopping to say hello, or would be lovely. Yeah, I think really for me it's the any kind of companionship along the way would be appreciated. So yeah, I'm not going to be one of these people that kind of shies away. I would always happy to meet anyone that might be interested in talking to me.
Fantastic. Great attitude to have out on the race course.
Right.
I think you'll meet some very interesting people along the way with that
Brilliant.
approach.
Brilliant.
So so we've kind of talked a little bit about the food side. Water's pretty heavy, fresh water to bring along. What are your plans there to be able to stay hydrated and hydrate your meals?
I know. This is a tricky one because of the whole weight thing. The more water you carry, the safer you are, because you don't have to worry too much then about finding water and purifying it on the way. And then on the other hand, it is so heavy, the water. So I've asked a few previous racers, and the rule of thumb seems to be carrying about 14 liters, which is probably, I don't know, 2.5 days maybe less than, maybe even just 2 days, depending on, how hot it is, obviously, how much I'm sweating. So I'm going to have water purification stuff with me. Some people have said, "Oh no, I didn't need that. There was enough places to stop and fill up from a tap en route." So I kind of, I'll probably have some extra carrying capacity if I need it as well. So if I'm finding that 14 liters is meaning that I'm constantly on the search for water, um, I might just start carrying a bit more. Yeah.
It seems fair, and the course changes so much as you head north as well. So, constantly adapting, changing. I think that's a great strategy on that front.
It's very easy to sort of have some, roll up, pack away water containers that I can, if I feel like I'm going to have a tough few days without any water stops, then obviously I'll plan to carry a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And Alex, we've been talking a little bit about grizzly bears along the way, which you
Yeah.
probably don't want to run into, but they
Yeah.
might be friendly with you because your team name is Team Bristol Bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would I know when I was applying, that was the hardest part of applying was coming up with a team name. How did you
Yeah.
come about that one?
It's a real cop out, to be honest. So there's a rugby team in Bristol called the Bristol Bears. And so it was just such an easy, oh, the Bristol Bear, that'll do. But there are other associations. There's a bear sculpture that became quite famous in Bristol. So there's that. And then there's also my fear of coming into contact with bears on the way. So I guess that the team name is kind of a bit of a reminder of that as well.
I love that. It's absolutely great.
Yeah.
And kind of fun. Good reminder of nature and all that there.
Yeah. Just
Um,
like a reminder to be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe,
Yeah.
That's your sponsor, right? And at least starting off here, you've
Oh,
already got that
that would be
going.
great. But no, I'm pretty sure they've never heard of the race to Alaska, or me. Yeah. So,
But maybe by the end of this, they will have.
well, yeah,
It's
I
yeah.
can certainly mention it to them and see what they say.
And Alex, everyone will be able to follow you on the tracker. Have you thought
Yeah.
of putting up do you have a website going for people to track you down? Are you doing any social media that people can follow along on?
At the moment, I have absolutely nothing. It's not, I would say social media is probably not a strong point of mine, but I think nearer the time I'm going to have some kind of method of communication that I can kind of advertise, I suppose. And I think I might even put something on the side of the boat, just saying if you want to speak to me or send me a message or something, send it to here. But I haven't actually got that at the moment, so I'm not very organized in that respect. Yeah.
Well, and you'll get there with it. What now are we're months away at this point, but what are you prepping on right now? Are you working on the logistics, the boat side, working out, getting yourself ready? What's kind of the main focus for you right now?
Equipment, I would say. So I've already started. I'm doing quite a lot of training, so I'm kind of building up to about 200 kilometers a week on the water. I don't know what's that in miles, 130 miles ish, something like that a week. But I'm taking my time to build it up because I don't want to get injured. That's my kind of one of my worst fears. It's getting injured on the training and then turning up to the race having not done the training that I would like to have done. So other than training, I don't want to start the race with equipment that I haven't tested, because being a crew of one, I'm kind of very reliant on myself and the equipment I have with me. So it's really boring things like, am I getting chafe under my arms from from what I'm wearing? What's going to keep me dry? What's a good combination with a sort of a Gore-Tex outer layer? Do I want to go for a merino base layer with a woolly jumper, or do I go for something more technical? And then things like wetsuit boots, I can still get my feet into my shoes on my boat, and it's really basic stuff that that you don't want to be leaving to chance to, near the start of the race, because I've got to come out with my equipment at the quite near the start of the race. And then I won't have much of an opportunity to change or look for other equipment. So I've got to be quite organized in everything that I prepare. Yeah.
It's tough to argue there's anything more critical than that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, honestly, from the row across the Atlantic, it was just all about chafing. Like everything that was kind of, we spent a lot of our day dealing with chafing. And I'm under no illusions that will probably be quite similar here, because rowing is, there's quite a movement involved with rowing, and just sat on your arse all day. And yeah, it's you've got to look after yourself, because after about a week, you get all sorts of problems if you're not, dealing with that chafe.
Yeah, it sounds fair.
Without going into too much detail. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in this race course, I mean, the weather's changing so quickly and such
Mm.
too. I mean, there's a chance you're going to be wet at some points, as well,
Yeah.
which might aggravate that a little bit more.
Yeah.
In particular, when you think of rowing, I know I had blisters starting on day 2, unfortunately, because I rowed about 14 hours on my boat.
Yeah.
You're going to be rowing far more than that. What's your
Yeah.
plan, just kind of on your hands in general, to prevent blisters there?
Well, I do a lot of rowing generally, and I also do a fair bit of hands-on work. So I kind of used to dealing with like hands toughening up. And what I've found is actually that moisturizing your hands very, very regularly is totally counter to what people tend to think. Oh, you've got to toughen your hands up. You've got to, they've got to be big calluses everywhere, which to a certain extent is true. But you also, if you're moisturizing your hands as well, it really helps. It might, for me anyway. I mean, I can't say that that's the same for everyone, but that's what I find. So I'm there with my hand cream every morning, getting it on, and before I go to bed. Yeah, look after your hands.
That's perfect. You got to do what works. And Alex, you mentioned you work with your hands. What are you doing when you're not preparing for the race to Alaska?
Well, I'm a property developer, that we convert kind of disused historic buildings. So buildings that in the UK you have something called a listed building status that protects the building from being demolished. So if it's got kind of historic interest, so we look at those type of buildings, and if they're derelict, we tend to buy them and try and convert them into residential use. So we convert them into multiple houses. And we used to do churches, manor houses, farms, things like that. Yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like if something does go wrong out there, you're pretty handy and can probably figure out a solution.
Yeah. I'd like to think so. Although, with a rowing boat, with just touch wood, there's not that much to go wrong. But there'll always be something, won't there?
You never know till you're out there.
Yeah.
And so, Alex, let's jump back to the race course a little bit. We've got some treacherous stretches on the course, from even just the qualifying leg, crossing a Strait of Juan de Fuca. We've got Seymour Narrows. We've got Johnstone Strait. We've got Queen Charlotte Sound as well. There's really no end to the challenges on this course. Call it Cape Caution. We could keep going for a while. What kind of scares you the most on the course as you're kind of laying your eyes across the charts? Like what's really drawing your attention and keeping you up at night, possibly?
Yeah, well, people always talk about, treacherous stretches of water. But I always look at it like kind of any stretch of open water is treacherous with the wrong weather, with bad weather. And obviously, with currents and tides and everything else interacting, you can end up with some stretches of water which are more treacherous than others. But ultimately, I'm just trying to avoid the weather. So I'm kind of thinking of it in rather than avoiding a specific obstacle, or Seymour Narrows or Johnston Strait or anything like that. I'm kind of thinking about just making sure I'm very aware of what the weather is and making sure I don't get caught out in a very exposed section of water in the wrong weather. So that's what scares me most. When you kind of you're out there and you're looking at sheer cliffs and nowhere to pull in, and then thinking about what you might do next. So that's the kind of the bit that concerns me, let's say. Yeah, because I know that weather forecasting can be quite tricky in that area, and there's a lot of local weather phenomenon that maybe doesn't show up on your standard weather forecasting. So I'm kind of thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the power of observation goes a long way when you're out there
Yeah.
too, and kind of verifying all that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm always I want to kind of always have in my mind what my way out is. I don't mean way out as in quitting the route, the race, but the way out in what if I get caught out in this area, if the weather turns here, where's my, I mean, I think you call it in sailing like a port of refuge. Where can I tuck in? Where, where, how can I get out of this? So I'll be looking at that. But in terms of the proving ground, I see that as potentially the trickiest part of the race, because you don't have a say as to when you can do it. So there's a bit more flexibility with the rest of the race, that if you've got some bad weather coming, you can duck out of it. But with the proving ground, with only a very small weather period of time to complete that section, that's that's definitely worthy of some thought.
Yeah, I mean, with 36 hours to get it done, and if the weather forecast isn't so great, we've got some tough decisions to make there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've kind of looked at some of the previous races where there was bad weather, and a lot of people left straight out into the bad weather, and then the race boss was then like, "Why did you do that? Why did you just go straight out into that weather without thinking about the implications?" So yeah, I mean, I can see why people would just feel they have to go, because if you don't complete that section within the time period, you can't start the race. So there's obviously a real pressure to go out whatever the weather is.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And so, Alex, you were talking about kind of ports of refuge, places to hide.
Yeah.
Have you started studying any of the charts yet? Are you planning to do that? Or are you just going to kind of figure it out as you go?
So I think I want to sort of get a lot more familiar with the topography, but 750 miles is a lot to take in. So what I hope to do is to plan a few days ahead, and to keep have all of the information available to me, so that I can say, well, actually, this is the weather I'm expecting. These are the potential safe places that I can stop over the next day or two, and then kind of coming up with a bit of a passage plan for every day before I leave. That's my kind of, so I set myself a daily goal based on the weather, based on, where I need to get to for any tidal gates or anything like that. So that's why I'm kind of, rather than try and have a plan for the whole race before I even start, I kind of will obviously plan and have done a lot of research on it, but I'm also aware that everything is going to change on a daily basis. Yeah.
That's certainly a consistent theme with the race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you so much. We'll all be cheering you on. I will definitely be cheering you on. And
Thank you.
Good luck getting up to Ketchikan.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the interview. Great.
You got it.
That's a wrap on this episode. Be sure to visit r2ak.com as we populate the 2026 teams page to learn more. And until next week, go out and have your own adventures.